At the bottom of the Baltic Sea, something strange happened. Two internet cables suddenly stopped working. No storm, no earthquake, no warning, just silence. Within hours, governments across Europe were paying attention. Ships were tracked, investigators were deployed, and one question quickly emerged. How does a cable line keep underwater suddenly break? Was it an accident? Or was someone testing something much bigger? If I ask you right now, how does the internet travel around the world? Most people would probably give the same answer: satellites. After all, that's what movies shows us. Signals flying through space, information bouncing between giant machines orbiting the Earth. It sounds right, but it's not. In fact, almost all international internet traffic does not travel through satellites. Not 50%, not 70%, almost all of it travels through cables hidden under the ocean. At this very moment, more than 500 undersea cables are stretching across the planet. Together, they cover over 1.3 million kilometers. That's enough to wrap around the Earth more than 30 times. And every second, these cables carry bank transactions, phone calls, government communications, military data, video calls, emails, even the video you are watching right now. All moving through these strands of glass no wider than a human hair, which raises an obvious question. If these cables are so important, why have not most people ever heard of them? The answer is simple: because they are invisible. You can't see them, they're buried under beaches, hidden under the ocean floor, far away from cities, far away from everyday life. Out of sight, out of mind. But don't let that fool you. Because these cables are not just part of the internet, in many ways, they are the internet. And that's exactly why countries have started paying attention to them. Because once you realize how much of the world depends on these cables, you start to understand why damaging one could cause serious problems. But before we talk about attacks, we need to understand something even more surprising. These cables are not owned by governments, at least not all of them. Some of the biggest owners are companies you use every single day. And their race to put on the ocean floor is changing the future of the internet. When most people think about the internet, they think about the telecom companies or governments, but some of the biggest builders of today's internet are companies you use every day. Google, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon. Over the last decade, these companies have spent billions of building undersea cables across the world. Why? Because data has become one of the most valuable resources on earth. Every Google search, every Insta reel, every WhatsApp message, every air request travels through this hidden network. Today, many tech giants don't just use the internet, they own parts of the infrastructure that powers it. In other words, these companies moving the world's data are increasingly building the roads that carry it. And once information becomes this important, governments start paying attention. Because undersea cables are no longer just communication tools, they become the strategic things worth protecting, and according to some experts, things worth targeting. Which brings us to the Baltic Sea. Because while billions were being invested into these cables, something unusual starting happening under the ocean. In November 2024, the fear security experts had talked about for years suddenly become real. Deep under the Baltic Sea, two major communication cables were damaged almost immediately. Investigators began searching for answers. Because cables don't simply stop working without a reason. At first, some believed it was an accident, but others were not convinced. This was not the first mysterious cable incident, and it was not happening in just one place. The Baltic Sea is one of Europe's most strategic regions. It carries trade, energy, military activity, and a huge amount of the world's digital communication, which made this incident impossible to ignore. Soon, investigators started tracking ships that had passed through the area. Governments demanded answers, but there was one problem. No one knew what had actually happened. There are no cameras watching the ocean floor, no witnesses, only hundreds of kilometers of cable hidden in complete darkness. And when no one can prove what happened, every possibility becomes a threat. Then investigators turned their attention to one ship, a ship that had appeared near critical undersea infrastructure more than once. Its name was Yantar. As investigators searched for answers, one ship kept appearing in the conversation, a Russian vessel called Yantar. Officially, Yantar is an ocean research ship, but for years, many Western security analysts have questioned its activities. The ship is equipped with deep-sea technology and underwater vehicles capable for operating thousands of meters below the surface. The same depth where many of the world's most important internet cables are located. Over the years, Yantar has been spotted near critical undersea infrastructure more than once. Was it simply conducting research or collecting information? No one outside a small group of officials knows for sure. But the concern was never just about the one ship, it was about what it represented. The ocean floor is filled with hidden infrastructure: internet cables, power cables, communication network, the system modern life depends on. And once something becomes this important, it also becomes a target for close observation and potentially disrupt. But the idea of spying on undersea cables is not new. In fact, one of the most remarkable spying operations in history happened more than 50 years ago, and for years nobody knew it existed. To understand why countries care so much about undersea cables today, we need to go back to the Cold War, a time when information was as valuable as weapons. In the early 1970s, the Soviet Union relied on underwater communication cables to carry highly sensitive military messages. The Soviets believed these cables were completely secure. They were wrong. The United States launched a secret mission known as Operations EV Bells. Its goal was simple: find the Soviet cables, reach them without being detected, and secretly listen to the information flowing through them. It sounded impossible, but it worked. American submarines and divers placed special listening devices on these cables for the years. The US gathered valuable intelligence without the Soviets knowing. When the operation was finally exposed, the world learned a powerful lesson. Undersea cables were not just communication tools, they were intelligence targets. And today, the world depends on them more than ever, which raises an uncomfortable question: what would happen if several of these cables were damaged at the same time? The answer is far more serious than most people ever realize. At this point, you might be wondering, if these cables are so important, why have not we seen a global internet disaster? Because when one cable fails, internet traffic is usually redirected through the another cable, like traffic taking another road when a highway is blocked. But if several major cables were damaged at the same time, the situation would be very different. These cables carry far more than social media. They carry bank transfers, cloud service, government communication, business data, even military communication. Every second, lots of amounts of world's data travel through this hidden network. And when that network breaks, the impact can be immediate. We saw a real example in 2022 when an underwater volcanic eruption near Tonga damaged the country's main internet cable. Almost overnight, much of the country lost its connection to the outside world. It was a reminder of how dependent modern life has become on a single piece of infrastructure. Experts have also warned that some regions rely on only a few undersea cables, which is one reason Taiwan is often mentioned in discussions about cable security. If several major cables were disrupted during a crisis, the consequences could extend for beyond one country. The question is no longer whether these cables matter, it's how we protect them, and that's where the story takes another surprising turn. Protecting undersea cables sounds simple, just guard them, but the reality is very different. More than 500 undersea cables stretch across the planet, covering over 1.3 million kilometers. Protecting every meter of that network is almost impossible. Imagine trying to protect every road on Earth, except those roads are hidden deep under the ocean. And surprisingly, most cable damage is not caused by secret missions. It's caused by fishing equipment, ship anchors, and natural events. Yet, even a single damaged cable can disrupt communications for millions of people. Repairing one is not easy either. Engineers first look at the damage, then send specialized repair ships to recover, repair, test, and relay the cable. The process can take days, sometimes even weeks, and there are only a limited number of these repair ships around the world, which means if several major cables were damaged at the same time, repair could quickly become a global challenge. That's the paradox. These cables are strong enough to connect continents, yet vulnerable enough to worry governments, because under the internet we use every day, there is a physical network lying silently on the ocean floor, and protecting it may be one of the biggest security challenges of the modern world. So the final question is, what are governments actually doing to defend it? And is it enough? Today, undersea cables are no longer seen as just communication infrastructure. They become a matter of national security. Governments and technology companies are investing billions to build stronger, more resilient networks. The goal is simple: if one cable fails, another can take its place. But there is one problem: the ocean is simply too vast. No country can monitor every kilometer of the seabed, which means there is no perfect defense, only way to reduce the risk. And that's what makes these cables are so remarkable. They are among the most important pieces of infrastructure ever built, yet they remain almost invisible, hidden under the ocean, far from public attention. So, is the secret war already happening under the sea? The truth is, no one knows for certain. There have been mysterious incidents, investigations, and growing concerns for governments around the world. But the ocean keeps its secrets, and maybe it's always will. Because under every message you send, every video you watch, every online payment you make, a hidden network is working silently under the waves. Most people will never see it, yet every single day, our modern world depends on it, and maybe that's the strangest part of all. The internet does not really live in the clouds, it lives at the bottom of the ocean.